So they're all making so conflicting because this report, I like this report because it's got some good quotes. But basically, it looks like uh, Shooty Gatwa and Millie Gibson are going to be ending after 2 seasons. Now, there's a few comments when I did my video on this on my main channel. A few people came in and said, "Well, this has always been the case that they were only ever going to stay for 2 seasons, confirmed anyway." Well, there's a few things which are wrong with that. Like that might be the case, but that will be the shortest run. All Doctors have lasted longer than that, basically.
Except for Eccleston. I talked about it in the video I did on
who left for very, very bad reasons, right?
Right.
So,
he hated the showrunners.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a few things. If they've only signed on for 2 seasons, why haven't they been signed on for more? Because that shows lack of confidence from the BBC or a lack of confidence from them. That's not a massive stretch. But then also, like, I mean, the comments, because people are like, well, they're just going to dip off and do a bit of theatre. No, theatre shows are quite long. Like you have a commitment of a weekly show for quite a long period of time for some of these theatre performances. But let's take a look because they don't sound massively positive either. Just as an FYI. So here's the statements that have sort of confused people as to whether they're going. So last month, Gatwa told the Radio Times after following season 2. I've got no idea, no plan. I just know that I'm loving it and my love for it's growing. Because he also said, theatre kept me warm and it held me all night, even if I was broke. But I'm planning on getting back to it next year after I finish season 2 of Doctor Who. So I sort of jumped ahead there. So odd statements to make. I'm planning on getting back to theatre. I love theatre. I'm planning to get back to it. That's a bit odd. The second statement's a bit more positive. But then Millie Gibson is saying this. I think now that the strike's over, I'm probably auditioning again for parts and seeing what's out there. Every year has seen such change for me, it's hard to think what might come next. I'd like to play a villain. If not that, I think I'm really intrigued by biopic roles that you really need to research. I think that would be a great challenge. I don't know. I think I'm just excited to see what's to come. What's to come? Not this. I'm staying on this. This is good. I'm happy to stay here. It's all very odd. I think.
I think you're right. I mean, it's one of the reasons I did a video on it. And I mean, I thought I was like, this is telling. I mean, in a big way. You have you have, like I said, the only person that left early was because the showrunners were shit and Eccleston freaked out and was like, I'm out of here. Right. In fact, I think he finished filming and then he was just gone. He just bailed. And at least according to stories. But I think it's very telling when both the Doctor and the companion are saying they're done early. It just doesn't happen. 3 years minimum is what you see. Outside of the gap year, which I think was 96 to 2005, there was like a 9-year gap in the show. Outside of that, we've had recently we had some really weird extended hiatuses, but that was because of the global crisis that we all suffered under. But I don't think you would come out and say these things if you didn't know for sure you were done. And there's no money.
Yeah, so
the ratings are garbage. I think they all probably realize that. The ratings are trash. And even with the Disney bucks, because that's really the only reason they're able to make it look halfway decent now. It is, I think even with that, I mean, there's no upside for them.
Yeah. Well, it's important to note. So, companions tend to stay for two seasons, but Doctors don't. Yeah. So, you could say, well, the companions, she's going to go anyway. She knows she's going. But the lead Doctor doesn't tend to talk like this unless they're going to be leaving, unless they're signed on for more. Seasons. This is very negative kind of discussion based stuff. And I think it's also, it's also important to point out they quite literally, the way they brought this Doctor into, into the universe was also leaving David Tennant on the table to bring back in as well, which is very unusual, very weird. Yeah, they might be doing a spin-off with him, but they also have left him there with the ability to literally just bring David Tennant back whenever. That doesn't sound like massive confidence to me.
One thing I did notice, so like we spoke backstage before about how I've been kind of removed from the Doctor Who, the Whoniverse, if you will, since midway through Capaldi's era. So I've been checking out these specials for various streams. I've been on this one included, and the way this was written, the specifically the Christmas special with these two, was so tonally off, like that, like from scene to scene, the tone just felt different. It was written like almost like as if it was a first draft. It just seemed very disorganized. I wouldn't be shocked if both of them are seeing that on their end and are like, yeah, I don't even want to be part of this for an extended period of time. This could actually sink my career if it ends up being as bad as I think it can be. Obviously, I don't have any insider information about that, but just based on an initial reaction of watching the Christmas special, first of all, I thought the thing was over halfway through, and then it kept going. That was really weird. Like it seemed like it was at the end, and then they just had half the episode left.
Like a sweet release. Sorry, what?
Which is usually a sign of terrible writing to begin with. To have a faux ending at like the 29-minute mark of your 58-minute thing. But I wouldn't be shocked if that's where they are mentally with this, is that they're seeing the shit show behind the scenes that no one's really seeing, and they don't want to be part of it for an extended period of time.
Well, you kind of don't want to have that stink on the rest of your career. I think you're right, Dark Hour. I think you don't. I mean, your representation is probably in your ear saying, "Hey, we need to get out from underneath this so that we have, some place to go." I mean, to be fair, Ncuti Gatwa's career was headed the right direction, and maybe they were looking at the Russell T Davies eras returning the Doctor to, a position of prominence. But I don't know how anybody would have expected that in the first place, as the BBC ratings continue to decline year over year, at least 10%. And you have, I mean, across the board, they have terrible viewership metrics. They're losing popularity largely because they're so invested in every level, whether it be news or entertainment, in the woke trash, that nobody watches them. A lot of the folks, and I mean, I know I may be speaking out of turn specifically for you, Mr. H, but a lot of people watch their things digitally through streaming. They spend a lot of time watching YouTube. The YouTube consumption for the UK has been astronomical the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have checked out from the BBC in general, and they've gone off now to streaming. I mean, me specifically, I haven't had a TV license for years. I haven't watched normal TV for years because it's just nothing interesting on. Like, I watch Netflix, and very rarely actually, I'm thinking of getting rid of my Netflix account. Although something was pretty good at the weekend, which I watched. But yeah, Amazon, and it is predominantly YouTube. Like, I thoroughly enjoy the production values of YouTube's massive, much, much, much better than most sort of terrestrial, as we call it in the UK, TV stuff. Any of the normal TV stuff's garbage. So, yeah, I think people are changing their viewing habits. But I mean, I think, I know Tom doesn't have much to say on this. I'm not even going to bring him in. There's no point.
He's never a fan of the show, right? So, I mean, it's just...
No, I know. But I do think people, generally speaking, I think the Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, being as upfront about going back to theatre is probably the most damning sign that things are not great behind closed doors. And I just think the fact that they had David Tennant on the back burner, he's just sat there ready to go. His character's still around. Like, that was odd anyway. And now this just adds fuel to that fire that they're just going to bring him back.
There was one thing that I also noticed when I was watching, and it's always been a line that the Doctor says. He often will, when he meets someone for the first time, will say, "I'm the Doctor, just the Doctor," all those things. This special had an excessive amount of times where he had to clarify that he was the Doctor and point out that he was the Doctor. It was almost as if it was like, "Oh no, yeah, I am for sure." Like the writing was trying to prove to itself. So like maybe he's even picking up on that like they're not even sure about him going forward. That could be a possibility as well.
Well, the literal bifurcation
Oh, my God.
was not bueno. I mean, it just, and now you have a bigger problem. Oh, and then I love how we kick one TARDIS out of another. I was like, oh shit, really?
So odd.
Uh,
So odd. Well, there you go. I thought this would be an interesting sort of topic to get into. Do we do it? What do we reckon? Do we reckon that he's going to last or not?
No.
Considering well, stop. The thing is, Jodie Whittaker lasted a long time, and her viewership was terrible. So there's precedent for these people just staying on. Like there's big precedent for them just staying on.
He clearly has an alternative that he wants to do. That's the difference. Whereas I don't think Jodie Whittaker really had anything else in the pipeline. I think it really poisoned her as an entity for anything else. If he has an already existing exit strategy, he might just take that. I don't know what his contract situation is, if it is just that 2-season contract. But
apparently so, which is still weird. It's weird that they only offered him two seasons anyway. That's odd in and unto itself, because they always last longer than 2 seasons. Again, except for one person, extenuating circumstances, hated the showrunner. I mean, that's weird in and unto itself.
Yeah, man, it's one of the things I pointed at. This is very odd because the only person that did it was Eccleston. I even said, look, this he'd left because bad, you know. And so, I mean, is it bad? Is it bad already? And it doesn't. First of all, it doesn't surprise me that anybody's only signing into a 2-year deal, because you re-up your deal, right? If you're doing well, you want a pay rise, right? So, I mean,
BBC pays massive money as well. Actually, they do pay a lot of money, way more than theory.
And if your show's successful and you're doing well, you want that pay rise. And if your show's shit, you want off of it, because again, his representation is telling him your career's on the rise. We want to get you into films. We want to do this other stuff. You're going to hear that. That's the conversation you're hearing from your reps, whether it's your manager, your agent, whatever. You're hearing it from everybody. Yeah. Even your money guys, like, hey, you know, be careful, because we got to, you know, up your earnings. So
yeah. Well, there you go.